Hi everyone, this is just going to be a quick tutorial on how to make a basic synthesized kick sound. I'm using Serum, but you can use Serum 2, Phase Plant, Massive, your DAW's built-in synth. For something like this, it really doesn't matter what you use, so just use whatever you have. My starting point here is just a plain sine wave. The only thing worth noting here is that I've got the phase start angle set to 0 and the random phase amount set to 0. Basically, all this means is every time I play a note, the wave is started from the beginning. If you have the random phase higher, then the wave could start at any point in this cycle. Here, 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 here. There's a few reasons why you might not want that. So the first one is that anytime you start audio or a wave from not 0, you get a click. And depending on the rest of your settings, you might hear that in your final kick, and you might not want that. Also, if your wave is starting from a different point each time you play a note, this, again, depending on your settings, could mean that your kick drum sounds different every time you play it. And depending on the style you're making, you might not want that. The first thing I'm going to do is shape the volume of the sound to something more percussive. So to do that, we use the amplitude envelope, volume envelope, amplifier envelope, amp envelope, whatever it's called in your synth. In Serum, that defaults to N1. You can basically think of this as controlling this control here. So I'm going to set the sustain to -infinity or 0 because a kick drum shouldn't carry on playing for as long as you hold a note. And then I'm going to lower the decay until I think it sounds percussive. That sounds about right. I'm also for now going to set the attack to 0 so that it starts as quickly as possible. But I'll come back to that. The next thing we need to do is add a thump or a snap to the beginning of the sound. So old drum machines did this by using a resonant filter like this and sweeping the filter up and down quickly when a note was played. This worked because the resonance in the filter basically makes a loud sine wave at the cutoff frequency, and that moving quickly makes the thumping sound. But we don't need to do that because we can control this sine wave's pitch accurately with these modulators here. So I'm going to use envelope 2, and I'm going to attach that to the coarse pitch control for the oscillator. You can use the LFOs if you like and put them into envelope mode. Before I forget, I'm going to go into the matrix and change this to a monopolar modulation. This basically means that the pitch will start at the note we play, go up to here, and then back down to the note we play. Now we've got the envelope controlling the pitch, we can start to shape that as well, which will be much the same as the volume envelope. There's a sweet spot. If it's too snappy, you won't hear it. If it's too long, it'll sound like an 808. So tune this depending on the sound you're after. Now you might assume, because we're making a percussive sound, that you'll always want the amplifier envelope to have as fast attack as possible. say 0 milliseconds, but it's not really the case. So the small changes you can make to the attack time can quite drastically affect the tone of your kick without sounding like a slow attack. So you should start with it at 0 and then make small increases and decreases until you get the style of kick you want. That's our basic kick sound sorted. You should carry on tuning these envelopes until you get the exact sound you like. We can also add some other things. So for example, a small amount of noise, white noise. And this can be controlled with an envelope as well. This can add another type of click to the beginning. Something else worth changing is the amount of pitch modulation. So higher amounts can make a more exaggerated synth sound. So if I change this up and go to 48, there's again an interplay between how much pitch modulation there is and your envelope settings, so you'll need to adjust those again. You can also add other things on top. I generally recommend keeping this as your kick foundation, so there's always a solid bass sound you can control. But if you want to add other things over the top, you can try adding a sine wave that is an octave up. So here I'll add the same pitch modulator to this and copy those across, 48 and monopolar, and then I'll add that in. And there you go, that's your basic kick sound. I'm not going to go into effects because they're genre taste dependent, but play around with the settings, particularly the envelope settings, and you can get a surprising range of sounds just from the single sine wave.